Welcome to episode 83 of How About Them Huskies. I'm Connor, as always, joined by Matt and Andrew. And for once, we kept a promise. Last episode, I told you we'd do another episode of the month of September. Checking the calendar, we actually did it. That's coming after a summer where we barely kept up with the podcast, but season is right around the corner. Big East schedule came out. We got locations for all of our home games at Gamble and XL. It's really starting to be an exciting time of the year. It's officially fall as of last weekend. It's just basketball season's really creeping up. So I think we'll start the episode right there with the schedule. Big East schedule came out. I feel like it's more notable. We know who we're going to play in the Big East games. I feel like you play each team at home and away, but the locations are what I'm more interested in that came out earlier this afternoon. I'll read them off and then we can talk about it. In stores, we open up opening night with Sacred Heart. Texas A&M Commerce is coming to stores. I honestly thought that one would be at XL, so surprise there. Baylor, no surprise, that one's at Gamble. And then for Big East games, we got Providence, Creighton, St. John's, Marquette, and Seton Hall. And in Hartford, New Hampshire, Lemoyne, Maryland, Eastern Shore for the cupcake games. We got Xavier, Butler, DePaul, Villanova, Georgetown. So I feel like Gamble clearly has the better slate there. But what do you guys think about that breakdown and how they did it?
I mean, XL kind of got the shaft here, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say that XL sucks and put all the big games at Gamble, and then they do that, and you get mad about the XL slate. You can't really get mad about that. The Gamble slate obviously much better. Big East Big 12 battle, no matter what, will always be at Gamble. No matter what, it'll always be on campus. The Providence game back at Gamble, Creighton, Marquette. Marquette for the first time at Gamble, I believe, since we rejoined, unless I'm mistaken. I don't remember watching, at least not in the last 2 or 3 seasons. I don't remember watching that game.
It sounds right. I'll double check.
I don't just like Seton Hall being at Gamble again, senior night, second time in a row. I feel like XL kind of got the shaft, but XL does get the opener, the Big East home opener this year. So good for that.
It was definitely purposeful. I don't think they just randomly drew it. Obviously, you want to have your bigger games at stores. You want to kind of build that culture up again. I feel like when you were playing your massive games in Hartford, you're not getting as much of the student body and the campus feel as you would if you played your bigger games at stores. So I definitely think it's for the better. Obviously, XL has higher capacity, but it's just different at Gamble, and I really enjoy, those games much more. So I'm very happy to see that they really, did the schedule the way that they did.
Yeah, for Marquette, the first year we were back in the Big East, it was at Gamble, but that was also no fans, so we didn't use XL Center that year. So really, it is the first one if you want to look at it that way. But I agree. I mean, Gamble, it's obviously on campus, easy for students to get to. They travel well to XL, but you want the Creighton game, which January 18th, I feel like that's right around when students will get back from their winter break. Obviously, the rest of the game, St. John's, Marquette, Seton Hall, students will be there. Sucks that the Providence game is when students are on break, but I feel like if you're a true UConn basketball fan and a student, you'll get your way up there on a Sunday afternoon to go to that Providence game. But
I'll be there.
yeah, oh yeah, I feel like I'm gonna try my best. I don't know where I'll be in January, but probably at the Gamble Pavilion. But yeah, XL definitely got the short end of the stick. DePaul, Georgetown, Butler. I mean, definitely the worst two teams in the Big East, Georgetown and DePaul. You could argue maybe Butler is that next worst team. We don't know, but yeah, I personally, if I was like say someone who just had season tickets to Hartford, which I'm sure maybe some of you listening, a lot of people out there, they don't have both. They just have Hartford. They are not happy campers today, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We're still playing all these games. It's still going to be close to, if not always, sellout crowd. So it is what it is.
And I'm sure with all the renovations that's been going on over the past few years, this is definitely kind of a way to get some of that money back. You want your concessions, obviously, and all your sales money. So I'm sure that, getting the bigger games at home is definitely going to, make a little bit more money for the school, whether or not, they have it at XL or stores. I'm sure it's going to bring in some money.
Yeah, for sure. They're not worried about that. I feel like at all. I'm just looking at the full schedule now, and I feel like our toughest stretch in Big East play, just looking at it really for the first time as a whole here, is pretty much all of February. You start February 1st at Marquette, and then you play St. John's at home, which that's always we usually beat them, but that's always a tough game. We lost to them at home a couple of years ago. Creighton on the road, Seton Hall on the road, Villanova at home, at St. John's. Those are all teams that are going to be near or in the NCAA tournament. That's 6 consecutive games. So if you had to pick a hardest stretch in this Big East schedule, it's got to be that. We also start out fairly easy. Xavier at home, then we go to Butler and DePaul, and then that Providence game. So we should start out at least like 3 or 4 now in Big East play, which is certainly a plus.
Another thing I wanted to point out, for the first time since, oh God, I think I think like 2010, 2011, somewhere in that area, we're going on campus for Villanova. We've been at Wells Fargo Center every single year since we rejoined. And for the first, I think Joe Arruda, shout out to him for, I think 2010 or 11, somewhere way a long time ago. But we're on campus for that game, so I know a lot of fans are going to travel just to knock that out because on campus at Villanova, that's a pretty historic arena. So I know a lot of our fans want to see that game. But I just thought that was worth pointing out because we're not playing an NBA arena for that when we're on campus for that. Students are there. Going to be a really really tough environment. That game is no cupcake for sure this year.
Yeah, at first I was like, we played them on campus last year. And I remembered, oh yeah, that's right. You're talking about on the road. Yeah, I don't know why they're doing that. I feel like that's a game they could. I don't know if they sell out Wells Fargo every single game for Villanova. I'm not sure. If you played UConn there, it would certainly sell out. You could sell those tickets for higher prices. But hey, if they want to do it this way, let them do it this way. But I mean, also going back to Rick Pitino's comments from however long ago, saying he wants to play the St. John's UConn game on campus in Queens. That is not happening. That will never happen. We knew that wouldn't happen, but I guess we get some sort of confirmation here. I get, I guess we'll wrap up the schedule talk with not much to say. We knew the opponents going in. Which game are you looking most forward to on the Big East schedule? Which one are you maybe most excited? Which one do you just really want to see happen? If you had to pick one game, which is it?
I would go with both of the Creighton games because throughout our entire time in the Big East, we just have not been able to get through to Creighton. We've lost 3 games last year, and of course, Creighton beats us 2 years ago. We've been back-to-back national championship champions. Can't beat Creighton. Um, we've gotten through Marquette. We've gotten through Villanova. I just, they play us really tough. So I just want to see us sweep Creighton this year. I don't care how we do it. I don't care if we win by 1 point each time. I just want to see a clean sweep of Creighton.
I'm gonna go a few different ways here. I'm excited to go to the Big East home opener for the first time in my life because I've never been to that. We've been away a couple of times, and then I just didn't go when it was Providence. So I'm excited to go to the Big East opener at home for the first time ever. But some people like the Super Bowl in February. We like college basketball. Buckle your seatbelts because February 1st at Marquette, home St. John's, and at Creighton. That is one hell of a 3 game stretch. So I'm excited for that stretch right there.
I'm gonna go a similar route to Matt, and I'm looking right after that stretch that Andrew just mentioned, February 15th at Seton Hall. We've lost there the past couple of tries. I remember 2 years ago we lost at the buzzer essentially on a putback, and then last year with Donovan out, that was an early Big East play game for us, and we just fell one of our 3 losses. So Seton Hall seems to have our number in their building in Newark. I don't know about if excited is the word, but I just really want that game to happen to get that off our chest and finally win at. We did it before the past 2 years we won, but just to finally break that losing streak, I feel like I'm most looking forward to.
You're missing another one too. Back in the RJ Cole, Tyrese Martin days, on the road, Saturday matinee game, overtime. We lost. It
That's
was the
right.
score was in the 90s. I remember. I
I'm pretty
remember
sure
it
that one was
very
like
well.
pretty sure that one was like right after like a long break we had with COVID.
Yeah.
We came out and
So
like lost that Seton Hall, but yeah, always struggle in that building, and it's
that's great.
Dan Hurley's alma mater. So you really want to take it there. But yeah, I'd choose that game. Moving on, couple of Huskies are going to be playing some NBA games, probably most likely just preseason games. One we really want to highlight. Another one, of course, where he's a Husky. We're going to talk about it. But Tyler Polley, signed an Exhibit 10 deal with the Indiana Pacers. Exhibit 10 deal is that pretty much what it is, to my knowledge, is that they sign him, and if they waive him, they have like his rights to play in the G League with like he'll if Polly plays in the G League, it'll be with the Fort Wayne Mad Ants this season, which seems like that's going to be the case. Also, Tyrese Martin signed the same exact deal with the Brooklyn Nets. But focusing on Polly, this is a dude we've had on the podcast a couple of times, did that live stream with him. He's certainly a friend of the pod. I know we're all really excited, want to share some words. No, Andrew, I'll let you kick it off. I know you're real excited about this one.
I mean, yeah, this is just when we found out about this, this made my day because there's people that come here and they're going to go to the NBA, like Castle, Klingon. Obviously, not discrediting those guys. I love both of them, but then there's guys that come here and work their way there, like Jackson, Hawkins, first and second round picks. But then you got a guy like Pauly who played. Obviously, if you've seen the interviews, you know what we're talking about. The clip where we ask him about if he transferred after he played for Kevin Ollie here and we were in the American. He stayed because Dan Hurley talked to his mom. He put all of his faith and trust in Dan Hurley, stayed here and got this program's wheels back and running. So if there's anybody that deserves to play in the NBA, it's him. He's just, I mean, that game at Marquette still is running in my head. Like I can still picture him just shooting the ball for. He could have shot it from the top row. Would have gone in that game. So and obviously a good friend of ours. I'm very excited because he finally got his shot, and I know he's going to make the most of it. So I'm really excited for him.
And I definitely feel like the sort of Dan Hurley revolution, maybe had a tiny bit to do with this. Obviously, Tyler Polley, an extremely talented player, extremely talented shooter, extremely hard worker. If UConn doesn't win back-to-back national championships, I mean, who knows? I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just, maybe posing that question to the universe. I really do think that Ty deserved it, and I think that his skill set matches the NBA game perfectly. He's 6'9", he shoots the lights out. He can fit anywhere on any team, so I'm not worried. I'm sure he'll find some sort of success within the league, obviously, even if it is in the G League. I just want to see him succeed, but I feel like his coaching and where he's come from has definitely helped him a lot.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up. I found an article on Sports Illustrated about Polly's signing. It says that since he didn't have his G League rights owned by any other NBA team, he needs to spend at least 1 day of training camp with the Pacers to have his rights go to the Mad Ants. So I expect he'll get waived at some point over the next few weeks. If he makes the team, I'd be shocked. It's just the way it is. But he'll certainly play in the G League. I feel like he's a guy. If he gets hot, he could average like 15, 16 points per game just on shooting threes. So yeah, I'm real excited for that. It's just another one. He's from that era, like you mentioned, before we won the title. So did it have a little impact? Maybe, probably, but I mean, I'll take it. Whaley was in a very similar boat. He got that deal with the Hornets. He signed an Exhibit 10 with the Hornets, and he played in their G League for a year. So yeah, just it's awesome to see that these guys are getting rewarded, even if it's not right away. Because Polly, he's what, 2 years removed from playing here. He just kept on working. He didn't stop. He was overseas in Greece. He could easily just have given up, but now he's gotten this opportunity, and I know he's going to kill it.
And we saw that hard work firsthand. I mean, from his first episode on here that we did with him, I'm not sure if he was in Greece yet or still working on it, but he went to his second episode in Greece, the live stream, and he did talk a lot about just what goes into it, and it is a major sacrifice. He said the hardest part was leaving his girlfriend and his family, and obviously it sucks, and but it seems that it's paid off in a way. He'll get to be, in the States again. He'll get to live the life that he wants. So congrats, Ty.
Yeah, if you're watching, which I doubt you are, but maybe you are because you've been on before. Congratulations. Moving on, really, the second half of the episode, we're going to talk all about recruiting and how we have no recruits so far for the 2025 class. But that's going to change over the next few weeks. I'm fairly confident. There's 6 names I highlighted. If you guys have any more I don't talk about here, you can certainly mention them afterwards. But we're the names I have that I want to talk a little about: Darius Adams, Braylon Mullins, Caden Lewis, Malik Thomas, Eric Reeve, and Nico Bundalo. I probably butchered at least 2 of those names, but haven't heard them really before, so I'm going with what I know. We'll start with Darius Adams. He's a 6'5" shooting guard from La Lumiere School. I don't know if it's supposed to say high school or just school. That's how familiar I am with the high school landscape. But he's a 20 ranked 22nd nationally on 24/7 Sports, a 4-star, almost a 5-star. He is down to his top three: Michigan State, us, and Tennessee. And I chose him first because he will be committing first, I believe, next week on Monday. He'll choose between the three, and I'm pretty confident that he'll end up a Husky. I don't say that about everyone, but I've from stuff I've seen, we've seen crystal balls. I feel like this will be our first recruit of the class.
Here's the thing with this recruiting class. A lot of those guys you named are guards. So, oh boy, Bundalo, Mullins, Adams, and Lewis, I think, are all guards. Geez, Thomas is too. So obviously we're not going to get all of them. But Darius Adams, that like it's good for people to commit like this because he commits here, and a guy like like I don't know really anything, but maybe like a Braylon Mullins is okay. I'm not going to commit to the same position at UConn. I'm going to go somewhere else. So it's good for these guys to commit kind of staggered like that so that they know. But I think Adams would be a big addition for this 2025 class, and I think there's going to be one more out of those guys that comes here, but we'll get to him in a little bit.
Yeah, this class, I feel like more than ever, I haven't really seen too much tape of these guys playing. I feel like when we got Castle, I remember I've like watched a couple of his high school games when they were on. I've seen Solo play clips of him playing before he committed here. Even like some of our freshmen from the year before, but it's just these guys I'm unfamiliar because I'm not the biggest high school basketball guy, but we'll move on.
As these guys come in, the hype will definitely grow with them. Obviously, we don't know too much about, guys like Darius Adams right now, but hypothetically, he commits on Monday, then, the hype will start to grow. And I'm sure Darius Adams will become more of a household recruit name once we kind of get that satisfaction of knowing that he's coming. So we'll get those highlights up. We'll get these episodes up talking about, our recruits. So I'm not too worried, not knowing too much right now. And if you look at our teams the past 2 years, they haven't necessarily been built on freshmen, which is weird to say considering we've had two guys come in and go out within 2 years. But if you look at guys like Klingon, I mean, he was a Connecticut kid. Everybody knew Klingon. So that hype was really large. And then Castle was one of the best point guards in the whole country. So it was kind of hard to not be hyped up. But a majority of our difference makers have come from the portal via Joey Calcaterra and other names, Cam Spencer. So I feel like, these freshmen coming in, they're gonna be more role players. They're not gonna be our whole team, which is why this year too, with guys like Abraham and such, I'm not too sure how much of a difference they're gonna make, but as they kind of, come in, play a year, we'll start to see like that Jalen Stewart hype going into next year.
I have learned to just trust Dan Hurley with whatever he does because he's led this team to back years. And I remember before we did this podcast, messaging Connor's UConn account saying, like, what is happening? Like, are we going to have a team next year? And Hurley pulled out all these guys. There's that infamous tweet about how he whiffed on the portal, got the point guard who can't play. That's Newton. And they got all these guys from bigger schools, and none of them can play. And bam, we're back to back national champions. So he could recruit the three of us to play, and I would trust him that he could turn us into national champions. So, and with the recruiting stuff, I don't get too heavily involved in it. I want to know the guys' names. If we get commits, I'll watch them play. But I've learned to trust Dan Hurley with the stuff like this and the transfers and stuff. So I'll definitely look at it, but I've just learned to trust him and not get too deep into it.
Yeah, the staff definitely picks and chooses who they go after. You don't see us offering 30 dudes for a class like some of these other, not bigger schools, but like some SEC schools, or they just offer everyone and hope they get some of them. But here, Hurley, you could tell he takes his time. The rest of the staff, Kamani Young, Luke Murray, Tom Moore, they pick out their guys. And a guy I've noticed that they've been looking at a lot, going to his games a lot, is Braylon Mullins. He's a 6'5" guard from Indiana, Greenfield Central High School. I believe he's down to three as well. I'm pretty sure it's us, UNC, in Indiana. I personally think it's going to be us or Indiana. I feel like I mean, he's an Indiana kid. Will he go to Indiana? It's highly possible, but Hurley seemed really interested. I'm pretty sure he was the one where literally after, or either the night of or the day after they went to the White House, he went to his game. So he's clearly very interested, very intrigued in him as a prospect. I've seen a lot of people saying he could play like a Cam Spencer role. I don't know if they're just saying that because he's white, but it's very possible. But any thoughts on him?
Well, I just pulled up a tweet that says that Luke Murray will be in this afternoon to watch him. Apparently, I don't know what "in" means necessarily, but he must be going to see him. I don't know if that means going to his house or going to watch him play. I have no idea. But he's going to talk to him, and UNC is expected after. So this is going to be a tough decision for him. But I feel like a lot of it depends on what happens with Darius Adams. And now, obviously, like I'm not going to get mad because somebody commits and somebody doesn't. I trust what happens. But what I've been noticing is a lot of guys have us in their top and then take us out. Like people that I expected to come here, like Boogie Fland, ended up playing for Calipari. Staff must have seen something in him that they just, they didn't want him for any reason. I don't really know what that is, but just this staff just picks and chooses so well. So whatever ends up happening happens. But I do think that Mullins, there's a good shot he ends up here too.
And you're entirely right. I feel like the staff has become very particular with who they get, and I feel like that's a great thing because if you're, if you're like Kentucky or you're like Michigan State or you're like Duke and you're just bringing guys in, you're an NBA factory, NBA player factory. But I mean, what are you really winning? These schools haven't won much in the past decade. Obviously, back-to-back national champions here, three championships since 2010. They know what they're doing, and I really trust them. If they want to offer five guys and they get four of them and bring two in the portal, I'm just saying hypothetically, if they want to bring in 4 or 5 guys, um, get them in and then get the rest in the portal, and we win or 30 something games, I don't have an issue with that at all. So keep doing your thing, Dan.
Well, 4 championships since 2010, but yeah. So
My
what you
fault.
said about like the NBA factories, like it's just weird because they obviously we don't get many 5 stars. Like we haven't gotten 5 stars. Like the one we got was Castle, and he's a workhorse. So I feel like the Dan Hurley doesn't really want any of these media glazed guys that are just going to come here as their pit stop to the NBA. He wants guys that are going to come here and win. Castle was a prime example of that. He knew he was going to the NBA, but his first thing on his mind was a championship. He got it, and now he made $40 million in the NBA. So they are very particular, but it's honestly intriguing to see what happens. We got 7 guys with us in their top 10, 5, 4. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
And speaking of Castle, do you remember at the start of last year, through non-con play when we were talking about if Castle had the right intentions about being unselfish? I mean, things change in a heartbeat. Even if we get guys in with these personalities, Hurley is not one to take crap. So I'm not worried about big personalities and, media guys. I just think that Hurley needs a tough guy, and I think he saw that in Castle, and him and Newton all the time would bump heads, and I just think that Hurley just wants someone who's willing to learn rather than someone who's going to come in and play their own game.
Moving on to the next prospect, Mullins. I feel like we hit the nail on the head there. We're going to Mr. Blue Blood, like Caden Lewis. That's one of the names I feel like it could easily be pronounced differently. I've never seen that first name before. I'm going with a Caden. His top four: Duke, UNC, Kentucky, UConn. So he's clearly going to go to one of the more premier programs in the country. He just visited us, I believe, this past weekend. I saw those recruiting photos. Side note, I love we utilize the throwbacks for those pictures. I think that's our best uniform, the Connecticut on the chest. I also love whenever they have like the chains, like the Husky chain that Dan Hurley wears. But this guy Lewis. He's a 6'2", 6'3" guard. He's from Washington D.C. He is a 4-star, little ranked a little lower than the past two guys that we mentioned, but still top 40, top 35 player in the country. Another guy I'm not too familiar with his game outside of his name, pretty much. Any of you guys want to jump in there?
Yeah, as you said, Mr. Blue Blood, he's obviously going to one hell of a program. I mean, that's one heck of a top 4 to have. I mean, my goodness. But he did just visit us, and I agree about the throwbacks and the chain. I think that chain's awesome. And if I had like 30 grand, I'd buy one. But I think this kid Oh man, it's all going to depend on I think NIL because I think he's a 5 star and he's going to go to wherever gives him the most money. I think, but I mean, I think there's a shot he could end up here, but I mean, obviously it's tough to pick here, but I don't know. He's of all the ones that we have, I think he's the least likely, but I mean, again, you never know.
I was honestly about to make a prediction and say that he was going to come here because if you look at his skill set, he has such a Dan Hurley skill set, 6'2" combo guard, very reminiscent of the point guards that we've had over the past few years with Castle and Newton. He's we are one of his three visits. Kentucky and Duke don't have a visit scheduled, which is a massive deal because if you can bring him in and get him to see it, that's obviously going to sway his mind. It doesn't seem like he has much of a um preference on where he goes. He just wants to go somewhere decorated, and where more decorated to go right now than the Yukon Huskies, back-to-back national champions. I just think overall, if he wants to be successful and he wants to be coached the right way and he wants to go to the NBA, I can't see why he would go anywhere else. He wouldn't go to Kentucky with a brand new head coach. I mean, North Carolina produces a lot of guys, but they produce a lot of 4-year guards. It doesn't make much sense to me. If you want to go to the NBA and you want to play for a prestigious program right now, I don't see why you would go anywhere else.
Yeah, Kentucky is not the Kentucky of the past. That's Arkansas now. I feel like I personally, I've already made the switch mentally. I'm looking at, I'm considering like Arkansas to be a blue blood almost in a way because for recruiting they're going to be right in with everyone because they have Calipari and the money. Obviously, not a blue blood for like national championship and like history standpoint, but from the recruiting, I expect to see guys with like down to Duke, Arkansas, and Kansas as opposed to Kentucky in the past. But I agree. I mean, we really Hurley likes his smaller guard. Obviously, we've had success with bigger guards in the past few years with Newton, Castle, Jackson. He's a guard, even though he's not a shooter. He's certainly a bigger guard. But yeah, I don't know about this guy. I mean, I say I don't know because I truly don't. I'm not into it. I've said that a lot, but yeah, I feel like we certainly could get him. I agree. I like that he's visited us and hasn't even set him up with some of the other schools, but we'll see.
His ability to play multiple positions, I think, kind of turns the tide in our favor. I mean, if you look at any point guard that we've had, I mean, since Vital, honestly, they're not point guards. They're point guards, they're shooting guards, they can guard 1 through 3. It's just the sort of platoon advantage that he brings to the team that I think Hurley would really love.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Hurley likes guys that can play those multiple positions. Castle, he wants to be a point guard, he said in the NBA. He was pretty much our three for most of the year, I'd argue. But moving on from Lewis to a guy who I would probably say I know the most about among the guys we're talking about, and because of that, I feel like I don't think he's coming here at this point, is Malik Thomas, the best, like the top recruit amongst the guys we'll be talking about. He's a top 10 5 star. It looked for a long time like he was going to be coming here, a long time ago as well. It seemed like he was really into Hurley and how his work ethic, and it just didn't happen. And he's playing in OTE. He's one of those guys. I don't want to make assumptions because I don't know the kid. He seems like a type of arrogant type of player. I don't know why. It's maybe because he is moved to OTE from high school. It's just I don't know. It's just that's my vibes. His top seven: Yukon, Kansas, Alabama, Pitt, where he's from. He's from Pittsburgh, Auburn, Kansas State, and Arkansas. I just feel like if I don't think he's coming here, it screams he's going to one of those three SEC schools. Maybe you guys have differing opinions, but I feel like the ship is almost sailed in that department. Unfortunately, he would have been nice to have. Don't get me wrong, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope we do get him, but yeah, I feel like ship has sailed there.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely would have happened already if he were to have, wanted to come here. It's definitely looking like SEC school.
I mean, Connor, with the overtime thing, I think isn't that where Singari played last year or the year before he got here, or was he in the G League Ignite?
He was a year in the OTE. Yeah.
Okay. But I think the main issue is that, and I think unfortunately, I agree with Matt. I think it definitely would have happened already. I think Curly would have said like, "We want you. You're gonna be a huge part of this program. Sweet, I'm gonna go." But I think I would be willing to bet Arkansas, but because I think this is the same Boogie Flan situation. I was really, really determined that he was going to come here, and then he ended up going to Kentucky, and then Calipari left, and he went to Arkansas. So there's just some guys that are made to play for him, and I think that he's one of them. Unfortunately, I would love to have him. He's very good, but I think Arkansas is where he's going to end up.
Yeah, I agree there. And I don't think arrogant was the word I was like going for there. I meant more the money side, more like a combination of he wants the money, he wants the spotlight. And I feel like you can get that with Calipari, you can get that Auburn. I mean, they always get these top recruits, it feels like. So hopefully he's a Husky because he'd be our second 5 star. There are fringe 5 stars here. Maybe we'll have one. Maybe Adams will end up being a 5 star, something like that. But our second straight year having one. Actually, no, that's not true. Oh, McNeely. I'm forgetting we have Liam McNeely. It'd be our third straight year. Forgot he's technically a recruit. I don't know why, but yeah. So we'd have 3 straight 5 stars, which would be awesome. But I don't think personally that'll end up happening. I got two more names to talk about here. We talked about all guards at this point. Now these are bigger players. We'll start with Nico Bundalo because that's a very fun name to say. Nicola Bundalo is his proper name, but he goes by Nico. He is down to his final 8 schools: Kentucky, North Carolina, Ohio State, Pitt, Michigan State, UConn, Xavier, and Texas. So all pretty solid programs, a good mix there. He is a 6'10", 215-pound forward from prolific prep in California. He is another dude I pretty much know nothing about, but he visited us earlier in September. I'm surprised we're actually going as far out to California to recruit kids. Clearly, Hurley sees something in him. Someone on the staff sees something. He's ranked in pretty much the top 30, so I mean he's not a nobody. But I don't know. I feel like we're going a little out of the box here. Obviously, Jalen Stewart was from Washington, but he had the connection with Donnie Marshall. If he felt like a guy that would be go to the Huskies. This one, I don't know. It's a little out of the box for me.
From what I know about Bundalo, he's more of like a stretch four, sort of like a caravan, but a little bit bigger. He can shoot threes, and he's pretty good on the inside, apparently. I haven't seen too much of him, but from what I do know, he would be, be able to stretch the floor like we like to do. So, I feel like it would be a great ad, especially with his size at 6'10".
He's 6'10". Jeez, in that picture, he looks like he's about 6'4". But that would be a big ad for us because we have Samson Johnson is probably done after this year because I don't think he's allowed to use his 5th year.
No, he's done.
So he's done after this year. Terrace Reed will be a senior. Obviously, you can't tell where he's going to go. And then who knows with Singare if he's going to be here. So I feel like we do. Caravan's probably gone too. So we probably do need a backup for that position. So I feel like that would be a big get for us. I'm going to be a little annoyed if he does go to Xavier, but I think that would be a good get for us.
If McNeely were to stay more than 1 year, I feel like it would be McNeely 4 and then Bundle of 5, which would be pretty exciting.
Unfortunately, I don't think McNeely's playing more than 1 year. That's a similar like wishful thinking there, but yeah, I agree. It would certainly be exciting. Don't get me wrong there, but
They got him projected going 7 in the draft right now.
so watching some film on Nico Bondolo, film as in I looked at his Instagram post that had his top 8, clicked the arrow and saw a highlight tape. I can confirm he is a left-handed shooter and he can dunk a basketball. So those are two things that we're really looking for in stores. But moving on to the last dude, another big man, the only true center I feel like that we're really recruiting right now. That's Eric Reeb. He's from Potomac, Maryland, a 7-footer. He goes to the Bullis School. He's a top 30 prospect. This on 24/7 Sports says is a crystal ball for him to Creighton, which is like one of those crystal balls that's like not confident. So I feel like he's still a very open book. His top 11, I know, Andrew, we were talking about this before we hopped on. There's some interesting schools in here. It's UConn, Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas, which, okay, that's expected. Creighton, obviously. Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, West Virginia, Stanford, and Harvard. So I don't know if he just included Harvard in there because his mom or something is just like, hey, just flex, you might be able to go to Harvard or something like that. But yeah, I don't think he'll end up there. If Harvard gets a 4-star top 30 player, that'd be one of the more shocking recruiting developments in some time. But yeah, you guys got any thoughts on him?
I think the Harvard one is just you look at this like flex to your family and friends that you could go to Harvard if you wanted to, but I feel like there's about a 1% chance he goes there. But this is the one I was talking about earlier that I feel like we need to. I could definitely see him at Creighton as well. Um, but of all those other schools, I feel like we should land either one of this kid or Bundalo just to have that big body with us because we don't really have a solid backup plan for that. We got wings for the rest of time, but these big guys they're they're hit or miss. So I know he just visited Indiana, but I think he would be a big get for us, and I think he ends up here personally.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you mentioned Matt, you mentioned talking about Bundalo. I almost called him Bungalow. Matt, talk about Bundalo. Our center depth is going to go down. Sampson's done. Terrace Reed's going to be a senior. Singare's there. He's a guy. He's still. I mean, I remember we used this term last year. He's raw. I don't know if he's raw. It's just we haven't seen him on the court, so we don't know really what we're going to get. We outside of like two games where he had to play a few minutes last year, but. Getting this dude a 7-footer. Let's see if he has any highlights on his. I'm watching it live right now. He can also dunk like Bundalo, catching lobs. So yeah, he's a 7-foot dunker, which is what we're looking for. But oh, you got the same clip up there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if these guys start, like Andrew mentioned, if these guys like recruit to us, I'll certainly become more in tap in their game. But as of right now, I don't know. He's in a top 11 situation. I imagine he'd cut it down to at least, I don't know, half of that before he makes the decision. Usually you get it down to like a top 3 or 4 before you decide, but we're still, I feel like, a ways away in that department. He just visited Indiana. He has pictures of himself at Kansas, Creighton. I think he's scheduled to visit us if he hasn't already, or he didn't post a picture, which isn't good. But yeah, that's pretty much all. Unless you guys, I know Andrew, you were mentioning maybe another name. I didn't. If you have him, because those are the guys I highlighted of names I at least recognize from like Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, I have one more, and that would be Tonde Yasufu. I think that's how you say that. But he first had us in his top, I think 15, and then he cut it down to 6, and we're still in it. So that's a good sign. I'm trying to find the post right now. I had it. It's got to be somewhere here. I
I just
think it's
tried.
got to was, but
I tried searching his name, and if it was like a test, I'd get an F because I was not close in how you spell
oh,
that.
here. Yeah, Kentucky, Kansas, us, Baylor, USC, and Arizona State. So big list there. But he goes to St. Joseph's. He's a 5-star, top 15 recruit. So really big name. If I had to pick, I feel like he ends up at Baylor, but we could definitely use him. I feel like he's another wing in the range of 6'6" to 6'9" around there. So definitely another guy we could use. But I haven't seen. I don't think he's visited us, unfortunately. So that's not a great sign when guys don't visit. But just another kind of who knows. That makes 7 guys that have us in their at least top 10. So that's it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this whole recruiting thing. Obviously, we're not going to get all 7 of them, but hopefully 2, 3 of the 7 would be nice.
Yeah, I just pulled up an article that says report 5-star him ice ASU Baylor over UConn, Kentucky, Kansas, USC. So seems like we're not going to be getting him, but it's just huge, like you said, to be in the top 6 of a top 15 recruit, even if you don't get obviously it really doesn't mean much at the end of the day, but just being active with these top guys, it's important, but also at the same time picking and choosing because that's like what he's top 15, obviously. Malik Thomas is top 10, top 15. I don't think they're the only two top 15 guys who are really in on, except for AJ DeBansa, who everyone who owns a college basketball team probably at least offered. But we're not going to be getting DeBansa. We didn't talk about him. I saw rumors he might go to like a BYU or something like that. He's a guy who's a one and done. He's a guy who could honestly go G League Ignite. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the recruiting side of things. I don't have anyone else. I hope, well, at least next time that we have an episode, we will have guys talk about that committed. Adams is supposed to commit next week. Hopefully that's to the Huskies. I've heard good things there, as I mentioned. But you guys got anything else? So I think that'll just about do it here. Episode 83 of How About the Huskies. Talked about Big East schedule, some recruiting. Tyler Polley signed with the Pacers. Little fun episode, a little fun September episode. Our next episode will not be in September of How About the Huskies. I can almost guarantee you that. We'll definitely at least try to go twice in October before the season. We'll go more often as we get closer to the season. But next time you see us, it might be a brand new show. We're kind of thinking about it. We might do, we might not, but I think we're going to try to do it. So next time you hear from us, it could be a potential new show. What could that be? You're going to have to find out. So stay tuned and thanks for watching.